Hello guys, I wanted to talk with you today about, so there's this merger between two of the major ad agencies, or I should say groups of ad agencies. So there's a proposed merger between Omnicom and IPG, or Interpublic Group is what they're called, the full name. So there's so just a bit of background. There's about four major ad agency groups out there. There's WPP. They're out of London. There's Publicis out of Paris, and then there's Omnicom and IPG. They're both out of New York City. So the proposed deal is supposed to be for $3.3 billion, where Omnicom is buying IPG, and if this merger were to go through, Omnicom would consolidate IPG and in a stock deal, and would create the largest agency in the world. Right now, Omnicom and IPG are number 3 and number 4 as the biggest ad agencies in the world. WPP in England, in London, had a revenue in 2023 of $18.5 billion. Publicis had a revenue in 2023 at $15.8 billion. Omnicom in the same year had $14.7 billion, and IPG had a revenue of $10.9 billion in 2023. So right now, Omnicom and IPG are number 3 and number 4, and if they were to merge, they would become number 1 based on revenue in past years. So a little bit of what I find interesting is that, so more brands, so the brands that choose to have these companies advertise for them and do their marketing, they're relying less and less each year on ad agencies, and they're doing more to bring ad buying in-house, and they're able to do that because of companies like Facebook and Google and Amazon. These companies are kind of cutting out what you might call the middleman, because why work with an ad agency when an ad agency has to sell ad space? They have to buy ad space from companies like Google, Meta, Amazon anyway, and all over the web. So a lot of brands are choosing to just give their ad money directly to these companies, these tech companies, and work around the traditional system of working with an ad agency, who handles it more personally and gives ad dollars from the company who has the brand to the media, But now you have these mega tech companies like Google and Facebook and Amazon who have a lot of ad space to sell, and they also have tools like they have self-service and AI tools that they offer these brands directly, and then they don't have to go through an ad agency. So the ad companies have been struggling. In general, they've been struggling more and have been losing customers to their to the very media that they would buy ad space from. So brands are now more and more going directly to the media companies and doing their advertising in-house, to the detriment of traditional ad agencies. And these ad agencies have gotten bigger and bigger over the years and more consolidated. It used to be a lot simpler back in like the golden days of the 60s, where There was a lot more creative potential in these ad agencies. Ad agencies weren't nearly so large. Yes, they were wealthy, but not to the extent that they are now. They weren't so international. Omnicom has some pretty big companies, like they have some pretty big ad agencies under their umbrella, like BBDO and DDB are famous, are pretty well-known ad agencies from throughout the 20th century, especially in like the 60s when they really started making their name in kind of the creative revolution of advertising. TBWA, I don't really know who they are, but they're part of Omnicom as well. IPG, I have McCann Erickson. If you've watched Mad Men, you'll have heard of some of these ad agencies. So at this time, subsidiaries of these ad agency groups are in a kind of a desperate race to kind of prove their distinct functions, their distinct features, which distinguish why they need to exist. Because with this kind of situation, with these kind of mergers, you have redundancies, and there will be job cuts, and there will be people will lose their jobs because of this merger, because there will be redundancies. But the brands that they have do like to have a diverse range of ad agencies within these ad groups that they can, within these larger parent companies that they can work with. So these parent companies like Omnicom and IPG, they don't want to consolidate all of their ad agencies, because these ad agencies have distinct histories and features and personalities behind them, and they want to be able to offer these distinct companies under their umbrella to their clients. So some of these agencies under the umbrella of Omnicom and IPG will continue to do business just fine, but they're going to have to fight for their place amongst the cuts, because not everybody's going to make the cut. And plus there's got to be conflicts, conflicts. So there's been plenty of conflicts, when these mergers happen, there are conflicts. It's a traditional thing where a client doesn't want their brand to be serviced by the same company who services a very similar brand. Like, let's say if you're Coca-Cola, you don't want to have your ad agency be the same agency that you don't want your agency to also be the same agency that handles Pepsi, and that's considered a conflict, because you're concerned that company secrets and documents specific to your company and the way they do business, and strategies for marketing and that kind of thing. You don't want, if you're like Coca-Cola, you don't want that information to be under the same company and managed by the same company that is also managing Pepsi, or at least that's the conventional belief. But anyway, so I know this is not part of the normal. This isn't normally what I would talk about, but this is a pretty big deal in the advertising world. And so the last major merger like this, or at least proposed merger, it failed, and that was between Omnicom and Publicis in 2013. So these kind of major mergers don't happen very often, and it's not a guarantee it'll go through yet. It could fall apart, or antitrust action could be brought against them to force them to stay separate companies. But these agencies seem to be pretty optimistic, because they think, well, this deal won't close until sometime next year, maybe even longer. So there's no guarantee that this deal goes through, but if it doesn't go through, it's probably not going to be because the Trump administration is pulling antitrust action against them. That's unlikely. These agencies seem pretty comfortable. They're pretty comfortable with this merger going through and not being held up by the Trump administration. Not to say that it would be really likely that I don't think the Democrats or Biden have the spine to stand up to it either, and I'm not even sure what the implications of the merger would be and how it would be bad for consumers necessarily, but it's unlikely that Biden and his administration would have tried to bring antitrust action or block the merger either. But they're especially optimistic. They feel good about the Trump administration not doing anything to stop the merger. So I just wanted to share that little bit of news from the advertising world. Thank you.